Hello, welcome to the Stockyard Industrial Lead. I'm Eric Miller, and today we're going to be talking about track diagrams. So let's say that you've got a local, like you see here, with a few cars, and your switch list tells you to spot these at the industry back there. Well, that's all well and fine. And then, maybe it tells you, take some cars out. But how do you know exactly where they go, right? One of the ways that I do it on the Stockyard Industrial Lead layout is I actually have instructions for the crew. But let's say that taking a step back and looking out a little bit more is how do you know exactly where the industry is that it says it on the switch list, So for example, this is standard distribution. How do you know where that is? And then also, how do you know which track is which? So if the customer is telling you to spot these cars on track 1 or track 2 and which doors, it gets kind of confusing. So I try to make it a little more straightforward with my crew. And I also try to do something that is very prototypical. So if you'll look over here next to the industry, we have this track diagram right there. And in another video, I've shown you how I make these track diagrams. I basically create them in Microsoft PowerPoint, and then I just print them out and laminate them. So there's another video that I've done previously that goes through the process that I use to do that. But where did I get the idea for these track diagrams? Well, one is going to other layouts and seeing other layout owners that do similar things. They'll have stuff like, what location this is. They'll name the companies. I like to use logos to give it a little bit more of a graphic appeal. Some will say directions. I really don't do that since it's just one spur. But another resource that I found really good is that railroads have come out with are, and they're called different things, but there's like car location industrial codes or car location identity codes. There's also things called industry guides. So I'll show you a few examples that I bought here, and I've just found these on eBay. So this is one that the Santa Fe did. They called it a click bulletin, car location identity codes. And this is for the Colorado area that I live in, which is really interesting because it's been a pretty good resource to know what was there before. I should mention that this has a date of December 1983 on it, so that's really interesting. Another source is this one that a former BN conductor gave me, which is an industry guide to the industries by the BN in the Denver area. So this is kind of cool too. So I'll show you what these look like. The other great thing about these resources is if you're not modeling the present day where there's, you know what the industries are because they're right out there, right? It's easy to figure out. Well, let's say if you're modeling like 20, 25 years ago or even further, but say 20, 25 years ago, like I do here on the Stockyard Industrial, how do you know what industries were there, right? And so, well, you know that I've kind of made up some, a lot of these industries are pretty prototypical, but didn't actually exist on the Rock Island. So I've taken some creative license there. But if you really wanted to be prototypical, these are a really good resource. So here's another one. This one is called the BNSF car location identity codes. But you can notice the date is August 1988. The BNSF didn't exist yet. But this is really interesting. So you go in here, and this is just north of where I live in Inglewood. I go by here a lot on the light rail when I'm commuting to downtown for work. And these are all abandoned spurs now, but it's really cool to see what industries existed back then. And it kind of gives you an idea for what would make a really cool switching layout with all these different industries. And in addition to telling you what the companies were, so you could actually look these up online and maybe, try to figure out what they used to do a little bit more. They also show you the doors, or they show you if it's a dock, and they actually have numbers on them. So you could use that on your model railroad as well. So that's kind of cool. And then over here, you'll see notes, a little bit more detail, what these are called within this switching zone, and then if it's a dock or a door. So really good resource. And then the BN does something very similar. This one's a little bit, it's not drawn. It looks like it was done on the computer, which is really cool. But again, same kind of thing where it'll tell you like how many cars you can put there, where the derail is located, how many cars you can put on the siding, that sort of thing. So this is really good. And then you also have the streets that you cross and stuff like that. So if the track has been abandoned or has changed, in the last decade or two, you can actually see what it looked like back then, so you can design your model railroad. There's other resources on eBay I've noticed, like people that sell CDs of maps and track plans that might have some of this detail as well. But it's just something good, a good resource that you can look up online. So basically, what I did is I kind of designed this a little bit based on these, so that I have the name of the industry. I usually will put like a box or something showing where the industry is, and then obviously you want the track, and then so those are some of the important things when you're switching. So I just wanted to show that to you. It's a pretty short video today, but I thought that it was important to show you basically the background behind um, my track diagrams and where I've gotten the resources and information, so that if you're looking for that, hopefully you can find something like that on the internet as well. And so now that we know that, we can get to work switching this industry. Now for my layout, obviously, like I said, it's not very prototypical, and a lot of these industries I've just kind of done. Um, I've used some real industries, but a lot of my resources were basically talking to people that used to rail fan, like a long time ago, and knowing what industries are there, and then I kind of try to figure out roughly um, what the cars are and stuff like that. But like I said, if I given this information that I found, it would be cool to do a switching layout based on that. So, okay, so that's what I wanted to show you today. I hope you enjoyed this video and just giving you a little bit of background and some ideas of things to consider, and some resources. For example, if you're planning your a switching layout or a model railroad layout at all, that's going to have some industries, obviously, usually have customers on a model railroad layout. That's a really good resource to look for. All right, so the next few videos, I'm going to cover some more detail, like I've mentioned, on some of the things that I do here in the Stockyard Industrial League, go through some of the operations stuff. And so I hope you'll enjoy those. But I think we'll take a break next week and actually do some operating. So, all right, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time on the Stockyard Industrial League.